All right, welcome everyone to another coffee tasting. Today we have a special guest, Gavin. Welcome,
Hey,
Gavin.
what's up, everyone?
Gavin is a Starbucks employee from another store, and he is one of my neighbors as well. And so, what we're highlighting today is just coffee bringing the community together. So one day I just noticed my neighbor Gavin carrying his Starbucks apron, and I just decided to, take that moment and say hi and introduce myself, and get to know a little bit more about my neighbor. And this is kind of like kind of an inspiration for each of us to use coffee as a reason to say hi to our neighbor, or just that person that we see every day that we wouldn't normally say hi to. So today we're actually tasting the Veranda blend. The Veranda blend is a blonde roast, and it is Gavin's favorite blend that we serve at Starbucks. Why is it your favorite blend, Gavin?
When I first started working at Starbucks, I liked coffee, but wasn't crazy about coffee. But then I started drinking Veranda, and it wasn't as strong or as punchy as like a dark roast or a medium roast would be. It was just really smooth and kind of more sweet.
Absolutely. So with that blonde roast, we're actually getting a lot of those lighter notes. It is a Latin American coffee, and it's a blend between different regions of Latin America. So we have Nicaragua, Guatemala, and Colombia. So we've got some great coffees coming in this coffee, and we're going to get some great notes of flavors. So some of those primary notes that we're going to get in this coffee is going to be those milk chocolate notes that we get from Guatemala, and it's going to be very smooth and subtle. So that's where we get those smooth flavors of this blonde roast.
Okay.
And so blonde roast was made for a specific reason, because a lot of people couldn't find that coffee that was smooth enough and light enough for them. So that's why this coffee was actually invented. So the reason why you were looking for a different cup of coffee, that's the exact reason why this blend was made.
Wow.
Just so that people can find that lighter roast coffee that they can easily and better enjoy.
Yeah, sweet.
So if you guys are joining me for my coffee tastings for the first time, welcome. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. And if you guys are joining me again, welcome back. And then for those of you guys joining me for the first time, we like to brew our coffee multiple ways. Lately I've been doing it 3 different ways on the pour over, the Chemex, and the French press. And the reason why we brew the coffee 3 different ways is so that we can explore the different flavor notes that you would get from the same blend of coffee, but brewed a different way. And so the way you brew your coffee is going to impact the different flavors that you get from your coffee. So with the pour over, we're going to get that normal brewed flavor that you get from a conventional brewer, but it's going to be more refined. We're going to get a little bit more flavor from this because it's going to be a specific single cup serving. And then with the Chemex, we're going to get a little bit more of a lighter cup of coffee. And the reason why we're going to get a lighter cup of coffee on the Chemex is because of the triple paper filter. The triple paper filter is going to filter out some more of those sediments and a little bit more of those oils. So we're going to get a very, very clean cup of coffee. With the blonde roast, it's going to be very, very light. It's going to impact the flavor substantially.
Could I ask a question really quick?
Absolutely.
Why, if you were to do 3 filters on this, would it still be different than this, or?
Yes. So
Okay.
there's also not just the filter is different with the Chemex. Also the grind is a little bit different.
Okay.
So with the grind, we go a little bit coarser than a normal standard paper filter. And so when you get a little bit of a coarser grind, you're having less surface area that's being brewed and being steeped. So with the less surface area, you're gonna get less sediments and less oils. And so with this, we're releasing more flavors because it's a finer grind, but we're catching some of those flavors because of the paper filter.
Right.
With this, we have even coarser grind, so we're releasing less flavors because of the less surface area. And then we're also filtering out some more of those sediments and oils.
Okay.
So this is going to end up being a very, very light cup of coffee. Now with the French press is on the coarsest grind of the 3 brews.
Okay.
So you would immediately think that it's going to be very light because there's even less surface area to brew with the French press. But that's not necessarily true because it's a full submersion and those grinds are really sitting there in the water. It's actually allowing time for the flavors to seep out of the coffee. Well, these are pour overs, so the water's passing through the grind,
Okay.
so it's there's flavor being left behind
Right.
because of the paper
'Cause it's not-
filter
yeah.
and because we're relying on the time of the brew process
Right.
to bring those
The
flavors
water's
forward.
not hanging out with the coffee as long as
Absolutely.
it is with this one. Okay.
So, and then because of the different brew methods, we're going to get different flavor profiles. We're going to get different balances. So what I've typically noticed with the pour overs, we tend to get a lot of those bright citrusy flavors.
Okay.
And then with the French press, we get a lot more of those bitter flavors that come through, but not in a bad way. The bitter flavors come through and kind of meet that citrusy flavor on the even
Okay.
playing field to make that balanced cup of coffee that we're looking for. So it's very interesting when you think French press, you think it's going to be extra strong and extra
Right.
bitter, but in some cases it's not. In this case, it might be a little bit intense because this coffee doesn't have a lot of bitterness in the first place.
Uh-huh.
We're going to get a lot of bright flavors.
Okay.
So for all we know, with this French press, with the blonde roast, we're going to get a lot of those bright citrusy flavors that come forward because this particular blend doesn't necessarily have those
Okay.
bold roasty flavors to offer us. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and taste the pour over first. And you're familiar with the whole tasting process, right?
No, I'm not actually.
Okay, definitely. So we're going to walk through the tasting processes. So first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to sniff the coffee, and we're going to really try and get those aromas that's coming off the coffee. So what I immediately smell when I smell the coffee is almost like that milk chocolatey bitterness.
I can smell
like
that, yeah.
a smooth milk chocolate.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we've got that scent,
Okay.
now we want to go ahead and slurp the coffee. And when we slurp the coffee, we want to get the coffee all over the palate of the tongue so that we can better taste the flavor profiles of the bright acidity on the sides, the bitters towards the center of your tongue. And so just like I expected with this one, we're getting a lot of bright flavors. And those bright flavors with the pour over is very interesting because you don't necessarily get this flavor profile a lot with the blonde roast, but we're getting a little bit of roastiness. Like it almost has
Right.
like a spicy brightness
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
And so that's kind of like those roasty flavors coming out from the roasting process. And
Okay.
so that's what's giving us those impactful flavors of that roastiness. And why we're getting those roasty flavors is because a lot of those sediments are being held back from the paper filter. So we're getting a lot of those bright flavors, and those bright
Okay.
flavors is those bright roasty notes. Very good. I like that. That's even though it's got that bright roasty flavor, it's still really smooth and mellow. So it's not
Yeah.
very intense. It's got that blonde quality for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually I put a lot of cream or sweetener in my coffee, but even just that black.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Definitely.
You know?
So now we're gonna taste the Chemex. So with the Chemex, we have that triple paper filter. So we're gonna catch a lot more of those sediments and a lot more of those oils during the brew process. And then the grind is coarser, so there's less surface area being brewed on the surface of the coffee. So this is going to impact the flavor in a way that's going to make it much smoother and much lighter. So like how you notice
Okay.
that you don't necessarily need to add cream or sweetener to this because it was already so smooth. This is going to be,
Even more of that?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to smell it. So right off the bat, those bitter milk chocolate flavors is definitely not as predominant in this scent. We're getting a little bit more of those bright
Yeah.
floral flavors. All right, let's go ahead and taste the coffee. So, like I said, that's
Yeah.
very, very smooth, very clean. And what's clean about it is the fact that we're getting almost no sediment. And the sediments is what really attaches itself to your tongue, and you get those like lingering flavors that
Okay.
hold on. So we get like that nice milk chocolate smooth flavor. We
Yeah.
do get a little bit of that bright acidic flavor that comes through towards the end as our palate clears.
Yeah.
But it's primarily that smooth milk chocolate flavor in the very beginning. But then it clears away very quick. So
Yeah, it does.
if you're looking for a cup of coffee, you don't need to add any sugar or cream to it, and you already don't like those dark roasts, the Chemex or the blonde roast is going to be very, very good if you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar and cream that you add to your coffee.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
The Chemex is really, really good. That is very, very smooth and clean. That's one of the qualities. Have a great day, Sheila. One of the qualities that I look for in a good cup of coffee is the lingering flavors and how does it attach to your tongue and what are the after effects. So one of the flavors that I tend to lean away from is like those floral dry flavors, because then you're left with a dry palate and you kind of need something savory to pair it with. And sometimes you don't have food to pair your coffee with, so you want a cleaner cup of coffee, more balanced, so you don't have to rely on a food pairing.
Okay.
So now we're going to try the French press, and I don't know if you guys can see it on the camera, but check out that crema that we got from this blonde roast. That's going to be really nice. That means we got a really good brew going on right here. It's going to taste delicious. Alright, so with the French press, we're going to get a lot more sediments and a lot more oils.
Okay.
So immediately, I'm smelling a lot more of those bitter flavors. How about you?
Yeah, I think so. You know, with the Chemex, that's what this one's called?
Yeah.
That one almost didn't even smell like a regular cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
You know?
Almost tea style, because how light and smooth it is.
Yeah, but this one's a lot thicker.
Oh,
with all
absolutely.
of
Got that malty feel.
Yeah.
So with this one, we're getting those bright roasty flavors, but it's not as forward as it was on the pour over. But and the reason why that is because those sediments that come in the French press are giving us a little bit more of those bitters, and and like I said, those bitters are kind of coming forward to meet with that roastiness.
Yeah.
So we have the same level of roastiness that we did on the pour over, but it doesn't taste as intense as it does in the pour over because those sediments are coming forward to really balance it out. So all three brews are a really good way to brew the blonde roast. If you're looking for a little bit more of that roastiness, definitely go with the pour over. The Chemex is really, really smooth, very, very clean. It washes away on the palate very easily. You don't have to worry about pairing it with anything. And then with the French press, we're looking at a very similar flavor profile as the pour over, but we're getting more of those bitter flavors that are meeting that bright roasty citrusy flavor. So the bright roastiness doesn't taste as intense, even though it's still on that same intensity level. It doesn't seem like it because the bitters are...
It evens it more out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It seems like if blonde coffee was made for people who want coffee but don't love dark or medium roast, then the Chemex was made for blonde coffee, because that's like the least blonde or medium or dark roast that it is.
That is 100% correct. Whenever I do the Chemex on some of my other coffee tastings, and people are looking for like a lighter roast, or they want to try like some of the darker roast coffees, but they don't want it to be as intense, I definitely recommend the Chemex. And like you said, it's almost like not a coffee quality.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've referenced to it before in the past, is it being almost like a tea.
Yeah.
Where some of those floral flavors really come forward, and it's really mellow and smooth, so you get almost like a Earl Grey tea status.
Yeah.
So it's really good, or like a English breakfast tea. Really.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that it tasted, or it felt more like a tea, but I didn't know if that sounded dumb or not. But that's exactly what it tasted like. Yeah.
And then it's even more so when we start to get into like the African coffees, and then we brew it on the Chemex, because the African coffees have a really strong floral fruity flavor. The really strong floral fruity flavors really come out on the Chemex. And then because it catches all those sediments and all those oils, it's going to give us that really strong tea flavor. So this definitely gives us a nice tea quality. And if you are a tea drinker and you are looking to delve into the coffee world, African coffees are really good to try on the Chemex if you want something that's very similar to coffee. And I do compare other types of coffees to different types of things. So like, say if you're a beer drinker and you like a strong like IPA, African coffees will be really good because you get that floral quality. But if you like a malty flavor, then you're gonna want to go with like an Indonesian coffee just because of the brew process. So there's tons of different things that you can compare coffee to explore the different flavor notes that you like, and that's the cool part about coffee is it's so diverse and the flavors widely range that we can find a coffee that is relatable to like your lifestyle or the flavors that you get. And when I say like lifestyles, some people might be on like a diet or they might have like something going on like medical wise. And so say if you're very sensitive to acids and stuff, Chemex would be a great way to brew coffee if you're sensitive to acids because we're filtering out a lot of those acids through the paper filter. So it's going to impact your stomach less than what like a French press. French press is going to be very harsh on someone who has a very sensitive stomach because we're getting a lot of those sediments and a lot of those oils that are going to impact the gut biome. So the way you brew coffee might not be just depending on your flavor profile, but a lifestyle choice as well. So like depending on like your medical condition or whether or not you're trying to take in less oils or sediments and stuff, that might depict on your brew method.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm gonna pour myself a little bit more of this Chemex. You're more than welcome to serve yourself up some more as well.
I'll do some more of that too.
Absolutely. So now that we've tasted the coffee, we're going to explore a little bit about the blonde roast and when it was made. We talked a little bit about it already when we first started the coffee tasting. So blonde roast was actually invented in 2012, January 10th.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so this is a fairly new coffee, very very new. It's like in its infant stage compared to other coffees.
So like blonde coffee in general?
Yeah, blonde coffee in general.
Wow.
Was invented in 2012, and the reason why it was invented was because they did a survey in 2010 to 2011 where they were asking customers like why are you leaving the coffee aisle without a bag of coffee, like what's the reasoning if you were to go to a coffee store and not leave without a coffee bag, why are you not grabbing a coffee, or why aren't you taking home coffee or brewing it at home? And the reasoning why is because around 25% of the people who go out and buy coffee, they couldn't find a roast that was light enough and smooth enough. And so because of this 25% of the customers looking for a smoother, lighter cup of coffee, they actually came out with the Veranda roast. And then it was in 2012, January 10th is when they launched the blonde launch. And they came out with the Veranda, the Willow, and the Decaf Willow. And so this is just like a way for Starbucks to find a cup of coffee that the people who don't necessarily want that super strong cup of coffee and are looking for a lighter roast. And especially if if you're a tea drinker, this would be an exceptional cup of coffee to choose because it has that light, smooth tea quality. And then this cup of coffee is also a 3-region blend, but it's a 3-region blend from Latin America. So we have Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Colombia. And so the Nicaragua and the Guatemala is what's really gonna give us those milk chocolate smooth notes, and then the Colombia is what's gonna give us those really really smooth mellow notes. So we get the chocolate bitters from the Guatemala and the Nicaragua, and the smooth Colombia is really known for its like really really rich smooth coffee. I forget the name of the famous coffee grower in Colombia. They even say it in a movie. And Juan Valdez, the famous coffee grower in Colombia. So like he's like super famous for his coffee and it being very very smooth. And so we pretty much have coffee that's inspired from him in this coffee. And you know we got that like exceptional smoothness, the Colombian rich coffee. So that's what really makes this cup of coffee. If you were to do the Willow blend is a Latin American and African blend. And with that African blend, we're going to get a little bit more of those acid flavors. So that one didn't really pick up that well. The Veranda blend is the one that really stuck around. I think you can still get the Willow blend, in the grocery stores, but it's no longer available
okay.
in like the actual retail
Yeah.
stores. And then another interesting note about this coffee is this coffee in Canada is called True North
Right.
Blend. So it actually has a
North.
different name in Canada. And this is a very, very popular blend in Canada because of those light roasty notes that you have in there.
Uh-huh.
And those light roasty notes give you like a slight feeling of warmth. So even
Okay.
after your cup of coffee goes cold and you're tasting those roasty flavors, it gives you the illusion of sitting in front of a campfire because you're getting those roasty notes. It's kind of like tricking your brain into thinking you're warm because you're tasting those flavors that are associated with warmth. So it's yeah, it's very interesting. That's we actually learned a couple weeks back that that's why the Yukon blend was chosen, because it was brewed specifically for a fishing captain, and his thing was, he wants an exceptional cup of coffee that can keep them warm on the open waters. Well, it's impossible to keep a cup of coffee warm. Like, you can have it warm, but sitting out in the open water, it's gonna go cold quick. So something important is maintaining the illusion of warmth. So he chose the specific flavors in the Yukon blend to really get those bold roasty flavors. If you ever try the Yukon blend and you recall the story, you'll actually taste those roasty, woodsy flavors like you're literally sitting in front of a campfire, and that's what gives you that illusion of being warmth. And that illusion of warmth is important, especially when you're working on a boat, because when you're working on a boat, it's a lot of hard manual labor. And if you're focused on being cold or your body's shivering, that's your body using energy and wasting energy for your muscles. And so if you can, even if you're drinking a lukewarm cup of coffee, and you can trick your mind and your body into thinking that you are warm and you're not shivering and wasting that body energy, and really preserve that energy for when you need it, when you're working on the deck of the ship, and making sure that you don't fall overboard, because that's
not something you want on the ship.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're tired and freezing. So that's how cups of coffee can really impact like the community and stuff. And I just encourage everyone watching the live stream today to say hi to your neighbor, say hi to the person in line next to you, learn a little bit about them. Even if you guys don't necessarily believe in the same things, you can find some common ground to talk about the things that you might believe in, just like me and Gavin, where we don't necessarily believe in the same things, but we were able to talk about common ground things and really make that connection and talk about things that really inspire us and how we can connect that through coffee. So I
think that's so cool, and I think that's something that is really missing in the world today. If I don't disagree with you, or if I disagree with you, then we cannot be friends. We cannot even talk to each other in a nice way.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that's right, because coffee is something that's not like, it's not an ideology or something that's instrumental in life, but it's something that you enjoy and have a passion for like crazy, and something that I like as well. And we can come together on that, and it doesn't matter that we disagree on this or this, but we're both humans.
Absolutely. And then also at the same time, you guys, it doesn't have to necessarily be coffee that is your catalyst for saying hi to your neighbor. If you guys notice something that, like, you have something in common, stop them and ask them why. Like, why do you do this? Why do you do that? Because, maybe the same reason they do what they're doing is the same reason you do it, and then you guys have that common ground, and you guys can have a genuine conversation with your neighbor and learn a little bit about each other. I think that's important to bringing the community together, so that it's not just, that person's my neighbor. It's like, oh, hey, that guy does this and this and this, and his name is Gavin, and he's my neighbor. It doesn't have to be like, hey, he's my neighbor.
And it helps open the door to talk about the things that are really important to you.
Absolutely.
Like, if finding common ground, or even like the love that you have for coffee. I have that love for things. There's things that I do or enjoy that I love in that same way. We're not that different, you know, and
Absolutely.
then that's what bridges the gap. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being able to find those different passions and put them on the same level, and then kind of show each other how we can share those passions with other people.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
agree.
Awesome. That is really, really cool. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us on today's live stream. Let's thank Gavin for joining us on today's live stream and really sharing his love for Veranda Blend and just, being able to open up and connect with us over coffee. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. I really enjoyed this. And I had no idea that there was that much of a difference between how you brew your coffee, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
alone is crazy to me. But
So that is one of the major importances of these coffee tastings too, is exploring the different flavor notes that we get from different brew processes, but from the same cup of coffee, and then also learning the stories behind the coffee as well. So
That's so
again,
cool.
thank you, Gavin. Thank you guys for joining today's coffee tasting. I hope you guys have a great day. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys.